focusing on network architecture, right? What we have seen yesterday is wireless sensor network block diagram. It's not network block diagram, it was node block diagram. Node, each node, what are the components in it? Now we are focusing on the network part, entire network, right? So you can see here, what is here, there is a network, wireless sensor network deployment for military use. How is it deployed? It is deployed with the help of unmanned aerial vehicle, low flying unmanned air vehicle or ground vehicle, right? And base station is also mobile. And when the sensor nodes are deployed, they take their positions randomly on the ground. And as it is the military application, some nodes may get landed on a moving tanker. So, in a sense, this is a very generalized or a generic wireless sensor network application wherein most of the sensor nodes are stationary. Some nodes have mobility, but very little mobility. And base station can be mobile or can also be stationary. It can be mobile or stationary. So these are the cases. We have two types of components, sensor nodes and base station. And taking the criteria as mobility is zero or there is some little mobility. That way, all the four possibilities are considered, right? So now in this, you should understand one thing: how the network is operated. The first thing is here in this diagram the arrow here the base station is in a unmanned air vehicle or low flying flight, right? So that is sending the query. You can see the query. Query is diffused. Query is sent wirelessly, right? And the sensor nodes, as we have discussed in the design issues, they should be able to handle the queries. So having received the query, they switch on the processor and execute and decide the validity of the query. If the query is valid or holds good, then it becomes a data source. And there can be multiple data sources in the given network at a particular point of time. And all such data sources should respond now. Yeah. So now the response, these directions from sensor nodes to the base station is indicated, response, right? So a query is from base station to the sensor nodes. The responses are from data sources, that is the nodes, sensor nodes where the query holds good, all right? From there to the base station. So both are indicated, query diffusion and forwarding of the response back to the base station. So this is the typical architecture. So I hope you have understood. Now here, what is being emphasized is the base station is diffusing the query. So this is indicated with this blue fill cone, right? So this is the area where the sensor nodes are deployed, and the base station or the sink, which is far away from these sensor nodes, has sent query, right, to all the sensor nodes. It is diffused, right? That is the first part, right? So the query is diffused, all sensor nodes have received the query. Now they are processing, and at some nodes, this query has become valid. That is, suppose these are the sensor nodes meant for surveillance, right? Detection of some event. That is, if it is a battlefield application, a soldier crossing the LOC is an event. And if it is the wildlife monitoring application, for example, detecting the lion movement or any wildlife such as tiger, right? Then the detection of an animal, lion or tiger, is an event. So if it is moving and that is detected by these sensor nodes having the camera sensor, right? So that is the point you should understand here is there is occurrence of event. Event has occurred, right? And now that is an information to be conveyed to the base station. So now the sensors around this event, right? Around this event, like 1, 2, 3, these three will detect the event and they will forward the data towards the base station. You can see this node is directly sending the data to the base station. This node is forwarding with the help of the other nodes from here to here, here to here, and from here to here. And this data is also taken with the help of the other node. It can either send directly or with the help of other node, it can forward it. Now, what is the point here? The point I want to make is, if here the nodes which are there in the network, sensor nodes which are there in the deployed area, they form some hierarchy. For example, a group of nodes in some area, they get clustered. They form a cluster. And among them, one node is elected as the cluster head. So when a member detects some event, a member or members detect some event, if they are bound to communicate that event to the cluster head. So once there is hierarchy, as for hierarchy, it is bound to communicate or it is bound to forward the detection of the event to the cluster head, and cluster head will in turn forward it to the next level. Here we have indicated only 2 levels. The first level base station, next level is cluster head, and next level is the sensing nodes, the sensor nodes which have the job of sensing and forwarding. That's all. They don't have any other job. Whereas cluster head has got one more job extra. Like it should also sense, it should gather the data from the members, it should aggregate and forward that to the base station. Right? So that is what is emphasized in this slide. I think you are clear. This is the important point in the wireless sensor network applications. So the students having doubt should come out. Anyone? I am not able to see your faces. I can only hear your voice. You can unmute and express any doubt you have. Even if you have understood, please you say, yes, sir, I understood. That will acknowledge my query. Anyone, please? Yeah, come on. Anyone has got the doubt? No?
Sir, it is a bit confusing. Can you once summarize this part again?
Come again, please.
Can you once summarize this part again? I think it's a little bit confusing.
Should I repeat the same thing, everything?
Not everything. Yeah. Just summarize.
Just summary.
Yeah.
Yeah. Here, this is a wireless sensor network deployed for surveillance, such as battlefield environment. Here, the base station, which is far away from the sensing field, has diffused the query. The query is like if you come across any 4-legged animal, such as a lion or tiger, you report to me. So that is the query diffused to all the sensor nodes. These sensor nodes, having received the query, they switch on their sensors and start sensing. In case some event, some animal is moving, then that is detected. If it is a battlefield, some terrorist, a human being is crossing the LOC, that is an event. So once that is detected by a certain number of nodes, then sensor nodes surrounding the event area, right? They are bound to detect the event and they are bound to communicate that to the base station. But as I said, in design issues, there will be hierarchical arrangement for energy conservation. That is, a group of nodes in a particular area, they form one cluster and they elect a cluster head dynamically. To find a time t1, one node is cluster head, a time to some other node may act as a cluster head for energy saving. Right? If a node continues to be cluster head, it gets drained out quickly and soon it dies. To avoid that situation, the cluster headship is rotated among all the members of the cluster, right? So given this hierarchy, when some set of nodes, they detect the event, they communicate the same to the cluster head. Cluster head, having received the event from multiple sources, it will consolidate. If there is redundancy is eliminated, and if any other processing is required, that is done. That is what we say aggregation, right? It all depends on the application. So that aggregated, summarized information, processed information is forwarded to the base station, right? So this is in this process there are two phases. Phase one is query diffusion by the base station. The query is sent from base station towards all the sensor nodes. All sensor nodes will receive it. It is like flooding based broadcast, right? Then next is event detection. Now the response is to send back from the data sources to the base station. This is the other way, information communication. That is what I have explained in this slide. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
You have followed it. Good. Any other, please? Any other student is having doubt? Yeah. So then we'll switch to classification of the sensor networks. How many times, similar to our classification of routing algorithms for monets, there are three types of networks, right? Proactive networks, reactive networks, hybrid networks. What is a proactive network? Proactively, the nodes in this network periodically switch on their sensors and transmitters, sense the environment and transmit the data of interest, and they provide a snapshot of the relevant parameters at regular intervals and are well suited for applications requiring periodic monitoring, right? So it is proactive. There is no query that is coming from base station to the sensor nodes. They are already programmed that way. So the network is proactive in nature. Regular intervals of time, the sensors and transmitters, that is transceivers, they are switched on. Sensor sense it, and if some amount of processing is required, that is done, and the transmitters, they do their job of transmission. Right, so there is hierarchy and everything is programmatically done. To whom it is to be sent, it is sent. Right, so that is proactive. Now the other is reactive. It is not. The thing is, the nodes react to sudden and drastic changes in the value of the parameter. Suppose if the sensors are immersed in the boiler, they are bound to detect both the temperature and the pressure. Right, so if the temperature it is to maintain about 75 degrees Celsius in the boiler. Now suddenly the temperature rises from 75 degrees to 80 degrees, then that is an alarm. So then the sensors will detect and immediately report. Suppose the temperature is maintained steadily at 75 degrees centigrade, these nodes will never report any value to the base station, right? So these are well suited for time critical applications. So here, what is time criticality? When the temperature has crossed a threshold value, some action is necessary. Otherwise, there may be catastrophe in the industry. Or if it is the case of some chemical plant where the leakage of gas is detected, right? So when the gas is leaked, then that time it is going to report. It is going to raise the alarm, right? So then it is reported to the base station. So these are suited, right? Suitable for time critical applications. Next is we need to have a combination of both, right? Both proactive and reactive networks. So a proactive component, what it says, at regular intervals of time, it is sending the report, right? The report of what? What are the sensors? What are sensitive values? Those sensitive values are sent. And besides, whenever there is a drastic change in a particular parameter, that time also they will react. For example, suppose if you use your, if you want to have, say, smart home applications, smart home security, that is, you lock it up and go on some vacation. Every day, the 3 times you want to look at the safety of your house, though you are in your tour. In the morning at 6 a.m., you want to get the update, snapshot. Everything is fine, door is intact. Afternoon, evening, every day, thrice you are getting the update. That is based on the proactive network. And suppose someone is trying to break enter, someone is trying to open the door by force, or even using some duplicate key. So then that time, because there is some change, so that is reactive. It is reacting to some event, and that is also reported, right? So these are some hybrid networks, right? I hope you have understood the types of sensor networks, right? Similarly, there are query types. I will come back to this. Query types is not indicated in this. Yeah, I will see query types. Okay, I will see in another slide. Yeah. Okay, query types also you need to have some knowledge, right? Okay, I will explain when it is necessary. Now we will continue. Yeah. Yeah, now we should understand network architecture. So the queries also, there are 3 types. I can add a new slide and explain query types. So query types. So there are 3 types. So the first one is one-time query, right? Then the second is persistent query, and third one is historic queries. So what is the meaning of this? So one-time query is base station issues a query, will diffuse a query, and all sensor nodes receive it. They verify whether the query is valid at their place or not. If it is valid, that becomes a data source. It sends the response back. And now once the query is executed and the replies or responses have been received by the base station, the query execution is complete. That is one-time query. And persistent query, it is not so. Query is sent in the beginning of the network operation, and the query is such that there are other conditions that are to be satisfied. For example, if it is a weather application in the morning at 7 a.m., the weather department people may send the query saying that you report the rainfall for every 1 hour. That is a query diffuse. That is, sends the rainfall for 1 hour and send the report back on hourly basis. So at 7, it has received, it has started the sensing, and what is the rainfall detected, that value is taken and sent back as a response. Is the query complete? No. And again, it waits for the period, 1 hour. Then again, the sensors are inserted and take the stock, what is the rainfall for during this period. And again, it sends the report. So like that, let's say it is a 12-hour query, half-day query. So for there are 12 reports that are sent periodically. For every 1 hour, that report is sent. But query is sent only once, please remember. That is sent only at the beginning of the network operation, right? Per day basis. Then historic queries. Historic queries is like you issue the query, right? And this query is to be executed over the data that is maintained in the backup. For example, what is the rainfall in the month of October in Hyderabad? And for the last 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, like that the query is given. How is it possible to answer? Just switch on the sensors and can you answer the query? No, you can switch on the query, you can switch on the sensors and then take the current value, but it is historic. You are asking for 1 decade, you are asking for a few years. So then it is necessary to access the database, which is repository is there, data repository, and you have to execute the query based on that. So all the values are to be fetched. Or if you say the query is in the month of October, what is the maximum rainfall in the last decade? So how to answer this one? So you have to fetch the October records for last 10 years and you have to execute the maximum function among all the years. What is the maximum value? So which year, which month, that is the or which day, then you will get the response, right? So that is historic query. So historic query is here, all the queries they will switch on and then they try to, right, give the replies. So again, the cluster heads, they have got the role to apply in-network processing or data aggregation and accordingly send that value, right, a summarized value or processed information to the base station. So this is about 3 types of query. This is missing in the PPT. You can add it. So now network architecture. What is that? What is the main motto of network architecture? It should cover the area of both for sensing as well as communication without any gap. There should not be any voids. So density is very important. You have to ensure the density of the network. Density means how closely the sensor nodes are deployed. It should not be haphazard at one place, more number of nodes, more densely at the other place. Hardly you find sensor nodes, some area is not at all covered, there is a big gap. That should not happen. So that's why density is very critical. So then how do we define the lifetime of a sensor network? Is there a measure? No. Like it all says subjective to the application under consideration. If it is a military application where security of the land or the country is very important, so the lifetime of network is defined like this. A node whose battery level is below 40% or 30% is considered to be dead, right? And of a given network of all the nodes, if there are 50% of the nodes are dead, then the network is considered to be dead. That is how you define with respect to military application. 50% of the nodes are dead, you are ready to discard the network. This network is not of any value, you say, because the accuracy matters. And same thing with respect to civil application, we want to define. Civil applications say just now smart home applications, not smart home security, right? Smart home security. There you have deployed sensor nodes for detecting the security of the house. Then the lifetime of the node is defined like if the energy is up to 10%, it can be continued. It can consider as a live node. If it is less than or equal to 10%, then you consider that as dead. And if more than 60% nodes are dead, then only you will consider the network, or say sometimes 60, 70%, then only you consider that network as dead. So that is how the lifetime of sensor node is defined based on the application under consideration. Right? Yeah. So this is what percentage of sensor, percentage failure, based on that you will define. Now here A to B, right? There are there are two sensor nodes A to B. In between A and B, some other nodes are also present. Density is more. When A wants to send a message, there are two options. Should you make A send directly to B, or should you make A send to C, C in turn to D, D to E, E to B? Both ways, they have both positive and negative. Positive is second option. Positive is A will use minimal energy to send to nearest neighbor. That is how it is tuning its communication power. That is antenna power. So it is using minimal energy to send to C. To D. Every node is using minimal energy to communicate to forward the message towards the destination. This is one option which is considered to be optimal option, optimal solution. In the first case, this left side, here A is increasing its communication power to reach B, and then at that time you make C, D and E switch off their antennas. They need not respond to this, right? So that is this option. So here A is sending maximum energy, right? It is increasing its communication power. That means it is spending more battery power to communicate with B. So both, it all depends on your perception. Some people argue that the second case is better because each node is using minimal energy to reach the nearby neighbor, though there may be more number of hops. Network lifetime can be increased, right? And in the first case, network lifetime, nodes A and B, right, if they are having duplex communication, they are going to die soon, right, because they are using maximum energy, right? So that is about the network architecture, right? When there is a question about sensor network architecture, you should give this diagram. Yeah, this diagram, or I gave you this one. So this one is the important sensing field, and you should always indicate the two things. That is query diffusion towards sensor nodes and towards base station, the response. This is to be indicated. Both the first part is query diffusion, second part is response forwarding, right? So that is important. So that way you should indicate, and you should also talk about the query types, network types, and then how to conserve the energy, right? This thing you should explain. That completes the network architecture. So tomorrow we'll start with the new topic called MAC protocols, Medium Access Control Protocols, MAC layer 2, data link layer. In case of wireless medium, data link layer is in entirety MAC sublayer. So they are called MAC, that layer is called MAC layer, and the protocols are MAC protocols. Right? So that's all for this session. We will meet next week again. Right? Right. Thank you all. Good day. So I will take the attendance. Yeah. So you can close. Anyone has got a doubt?
Sir,
Yeah. Please.
sir, it says only 36 members in the attendance, sir.
Oh, you could see it?
Yes, sir.
How could you see that one? This one, in this, where did
Oh,
you
sir,
see that?
the one you just downloaded.
Oh, it has said that one?
Yes, sir.
Is the file name is like that?
No, sir, it said members 36.
40 is there. Member 36, yeah. Yeah. Okay, don't worry much about attendance. If you ask doubts about subject, I will be very happy rather than attendance. Any doubts, please? Swami Mitra, yes, any doubt?
No, sir.
Fine. Any other student has got the doubt? Please